Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. Um, Lyle and Terri and Felecia and I are really looking forward to sharing with you what our experience was at the 2025 Florida Convention. Um, it was a very inspiring and uplifting event. I would ask you, if you would please, to put any questions that you have in chat. We will definitely have time for questions, but with the number of participants we have, it will help me if you put the questions in chat, and I'll monitor chat. With that as the opening remarks, Felecia is going to be our first speaker, and I'll turn it over to Felecia.
Good evening or afternoon, everyone. If you can see my screen, you'll see the PowerPoint, and I will review the events that I attended at the conference. Okay, if I can start making it go. There we go. Hold up. Okay, the first thing, I arrived at the conference on Thursday because we had a board meeting that evening. Along with that, there was a national popular vote meeting that afternoon. But since I had to attend the board meeting, and I just want to let everyone know any local member can attend a board meeting to observe. They cannot participate, but they can observe. So we did have 3 observers at the board meeting. The next morning was Friday, which I presented a workshop, League 101. And basically, what that is, I talk about the history, the mission, our bylaws, our policies, being nonpartisan, and our policy on DEI. And we talk about our organizational structure. It is a great opportunity if you haven't been to League 101. I mean, I can always do the presentation here, or you can attend the next conference in 2 years, which I would encourage everyone to do. But you have an opportunity to share with other leagues what's going on in your league, as well as talk about some of our structural changes that may happen or may need to happen when it comes to young adults. The workshops I attended, these are the 4 workshops I attended over the 2 days. The Advocate Like a Pro, Florida Public School Funding Demystified, One Person, One Vote is closer than you think, and a closer look at our budget for 2025, 2026, and the Digital Democracy Project. And I have slides on each one of those. So Advocate Like a Pro, Florida Public Schools Funding Demystified. Basically, the education Florida funding, Florida has been at the bottom for the past 2 decades. As when it comes to teacher salary ranking, Florida ranks 50th, even with the cost of living adjustment. So where do you think that puts us when it comes to Florida schools? Public schools. Capital improvement funding is not equitable across the state. So what the word was used, it's like this is ridiculously complicated. And so how are Florida schools funded? I will put this in chat once I finish my presentation. The link, so you can actually go to this particular screen, a website to see, but we need more investments in students is basically what we need when it comes to public education. That was the bottom line. One person, one vote is closer than you think. I do have my national popular vote sign on. And you may ask, what is national popular vote? It basically aims at the U.S. presidential candidate who receives the most popular votes nationwide wins. It's basically states that have joined in a compact together, and they agree that their electoral college votes are awarded to the presidential candidate that wins the national popular vote. So as of April 2025, there were 17 states and the District of Columbia that have joined together, and we have 209 electoral votes. We need 270. So we're not that far away. And there was a discussion that was held on Friday as well. There was a meeting that the National Popular Vote crew basically met on Thursday, had a discussion about this, and we have our own resident local expert, Deb Mazzaferro, who knows everything about it. But here's some key points. Um, National Popular Vote works within the existing framework of the Electoral College, so we're not going against the Constitution, if you hear that. States are constitutionally allowed to determine how they award their electoral votes, so that's very important. So what can you do? Here's some things that we were told we can do. You can send an email to your legislators. You can sign up to receive the newsletter, and that's at floridiansfornpv.com. Again, I'll put that in the link in the chat for you to have. Get involved, become a member, schedule a speaker, and tell your friends about National Popular Vote. I also attended a closer look at our budget for 2025, 2026. This was before it was voted on. And basically, again, any member could have gone to this particular workshop, and basically it was review with our members for transparency and insight. So if you have any questions, again, here's a link. If you want to take a look at the budgets, there's one for advocacy as well as one for education. And this is what the Florida League will be operating on for 25, 26. A lot of the questions that were about the budget centered around our new membership structure. There are a lot of concerns about contributions of fundraising for our local leagues compared to before because of the new membership structure. There was a question about the PMP and when's the last time we were having to pay PMP to the state. And basically that's in 2026. I think it's April timeframe. And then there was some discussion about payment for 411. The last workshop that I went to was Digital Democracy Project. And basically what this is a platform that allows users to vote on the same bills as their legislators are from their phone. It is a nonpartisan group. It compares results in real time. It is going to expand nationwide, but our focus was for Florida. You do have to be a registered voter to get on the app, and it is called VOATZ app, and you can get it if you have either phone, the iPhone or the other phone. I can't even remember what it is, but if you have either phone, either smartphone, you can get the Votes app. You do have to provide them with your ID. So again, that's how they check to make sure that you're a registered voter. And here are the links if you want to know more about it. If we do have time, I can share the video, but we won't go into that right now. If you want to know more about the project, here's the link for that as well. One of the things that we wanted to highlight if there were any disappointments that we had, and I want to talk about disappointments before I talk about what I really enjoyed or what I was inspired about. But one disappointment I had was I had requested someone from the U.S. LWVUS to come talk about our new membership platform because we're still having challenges on that, but that did not happen, of course. And the other thing I'm disappointed about is that we don't have more local leaguers attend the conference. The conference is held every 2 years. And for this year, based on our local membership, we had 10 delegate votes, but we only had 4 delegates that attended. I realize, it takes a lot. It's a lot of hard work, believe it or not. Every day is jam-packed from the beginning. I mean, 8, 9 o'clock. I mean, I usually get up my usual time, 5 or 6. And so you're running until 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. You can actually stay up later if you like. But my energy kind of runs down after 8 or 9 o'clock. But it is worth it. So I would encourage anyone to go that may be interested. There's a lot of educational benefits. There are so many workshops. You have to choose which workshop you're going to. There's usually at least 3, maybe 4 workshops running concurrently. So you do have to choose. And for those of you that are involved, more so like if you're on committees, especially throughout the state, you get to put names with faces. So it's great to see people that you've worked with and you only saw them in a square. So I would encourage everyone to go. What did I find the most enjoyable or inspiring? This was my second state conference that I've gone to. It was the best ever. I mean, and I'm saying that I've only been to 2, and this was the best one. But I heard that from so many other attendees that they've actually gone to many more than I have. And so there were a lot of praises to the staff. They actually did awesome in putting this together. I did enjoy the gala. We had Howard Simone and Bacardi Jackson of the ACLU there, and their work is inspiring, as well as, we work with them a lot on a lot of different issues. The highlight, though, that I had was the mayor of Orange County, who attended, James Demings. He was there. He came and spoke. Of course, he wants us to spend money since we're in his city, but he is one of my soror's husband. All of you guys know Val Demings, so it was great to see him there, welcoming us to his city. Again, meeting and greeting in persons across the state. It is great to see people that you only see on squares. And then, of course, League of Women Voters Manatee won an award. So that was enjoyable as well. And again, I want to say thank you. I actually ended over 3 years of service at the state level. So this is my way of saying I'm done with the state right now. I'm still working with them on some issues, but my work is now going to be focused more on Manatee. And I just want to say thank you for all of those that supported me throughout this process.
Thank you so much, Felecia. Excellent information, and yes, it was inspiring, and I hope that we will all be much more able to persuade people that it's worth the time and the effort to attend a convention in 2 years. So we really want to encourage that. Felecia will be adding some of those links into the chat so that you'll be able to see them. Alice did comment in the chat that PMP stands for the per member payment, which is what we used to have to send to the state and to national. And Terri clarified that the Votes app is available on Apple and Android devices. So thank you, Felecia, again. Lyle, you are up next.
Thank you very much. This was my first year attending the convention, so I did not excerpt any slides from everybody else's presentations, but I just responded to the questions that Ruth asked me. And it's really nice going second, because when they say something, then I don't have to repeat it again. So I was very happy. There were some of the things that Felecia said were exactly the things that I would have said. First of all, what did you enjoy most? I definitely enjoyed meeting and learning from the other members. They have different priorities, they have different approaches and different accomplishments. And no one was doing the Chicken Little, the sky is falling, everything is terrible. And that was really nice to hear, because we heard a lot of that, or at least I heard of a lot of that previously. And so let me give you an example of that. So with Amendment 4, obviously it did not pass the 60% criteria, but people are like, this is what you can do locally. What you can do is clarify where we stand, because there was so much national noise about different states and what they're doing and what the priorities are, that people here don't understand what their rights are. So we can still be providing information that is very useful to people here. And I thought that was great, that they were just not tucking their tail between their heads, between their legs, and running away. So I thought that was really great. In terms of what was most inspiring, I thought the fact that there were many forward-looking attitude and plans in progress, the national popular vote being one of it. And we all say the national popular vote, but I want to underscore the fact that it's the national popular vote intrastate compact. And I think I did not remember those last two words and what that means. An intrastate compact is something that the states say between themselves. The feds have nothing about it. They can't come in and squash it or anything like that. It's like what they use with boundaries between rivers and state lines and things like that. So this has been happening, and as Felecia pointed out, we're 70% there. We're at 209 votes to beat a 207, and that's really only 5 or 6 more states that need to do it. So we are making progress. So everyone should be excited about the fact that one day, I won't say soon, but one day it will be that the popular vote will be able to elect the President of the United States. In terms of the workshops that I attended, it started off with a bang. I attended Making Democracy Work, and this was given by Gail Formanak, who was from the Villages, the Tri-County area. And it's talking about how she thinks that the League should refocus on the things that we are known for our strengths. And I found it fascinating. And just to sort of jump to the end of the meeting, one of the things we were allowed to do was we were allowed to go up to the microphone and say, what do you want from the state? And 3 people, Manatee included, said, this is what we want to do. We want the state to focus on what we are known for. In the case of what she did at the Villages, it's not saying this has to be done everywhere this way, but she only wanted to focus on our strengths, which was basically voting rights, redistribution, things that when we are called to testify, we are the authority. She goes, will you eliminate, and this is only what they did in their community. They eliminated all of the committees. They don't have natural resources. They don't have health care. They don't have any of these other committees because they said it took away from what their strength was. Do we have to do it that way? No, we don't have to do it that way. But it's an interesting point. Her point was when they're talking about, let's say, preserving the coastlines, we are never going to be called forth as the League of Women Voters to talk about oyster beds. That's never going to be us. We're never going to be number one in that area. So we should focus on areas where we can be number one. And she says the problem is when you have all these other areas that you focus on, people don't know really what you stand for. And I thought that was a valid point. She goes, this is why I can prove to you this is true. It's because if you look at the other committees that we have, all of those things are listed on the Democrats' program of things that they want to do. None of them are listed on what the Republicans want to do. So as evidence of that, when we want to have a town hall and Republican speakers refuse to come forward, that's a problem. And why they think we are not partisan is because of this. It's just something to consider, but I thought it was a very, very interesting presentation. And I would recommend that we have that presentation, at least for the board meeting first, to see if it would be something for the general population. And I think that was put forward by 2 other leagues there at the meeting too. So that's that part. I also attended the intersection of healthcare and democracy. I think that probably Ruth will have more to say on this, so I don't have a lot to say on that. I already talked about national popular vote. I also attended Next Generation Voters, and I thought that was also very interesting. I did not know previously that there was a Florida group that specifically talked about youth, that is a resource for all of us. So that was very exciting. And she gave lots of examples of where the people that are younger people, they're not just quote unquote allowed to speak. They have an initiative, they lead it, they run with it, they promote it, they invite us as guests. And I was very excited to see that they were taking charge of that and feeling comfortable with that. And the last one was working in collaboration. And again, this was something that Sarasota did, which is they have something called the PEN Network, which stands for Public Education Network. They have groups of people that explore common goals and they work together. They go to one another's events. They use each other's press. They contact congressmen. I thought it was very, very interesting. And since Randy's on the call here, he asked me, who was the person that you said they only spent $700 to become a 501(c)(3)? Well, the person is the person who led this, Dr. Jill Lewis. So I'm waiting to hear back for that, and I will share that too. In terms of any surprises, I was really surprised that they actually let every single league talk about their accomplishments. That was extremely enlightening. And what they're going to do is they're going to give us a summary of all of that, because for Manatee's perspective, I would really like to know what these other leagues are doing in terms of getting grants. They may be aware of sources that would be available also to us, but we're not aware of them. And again, if we're a 501(c), we may have more access to. So that was it. In terms of things that are also surprising, as Felecia alluded to, these 14-hour days were killers. You know, I slept through happy hour. You know, I was like, no, got to go to my room and sleep for 45 minutes. But it was very, very exciting. So I very much appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Lyle, so very much. Thank you, thank you. And certainly, all of you, Felecia did post information with the links in chat. So that information is there. Terri clarified when Lyle was referencing each league had a chance to provide direction to the Florida. It's actually officially called direction to the board. And I will be circulating the presentation that Lyle referenced from the villages where they eliminated their other action committees. I don't know that we have an appetite for that at all, but I'll at least share that with the board members so that they can see what the basis of their decision was. Terri, I'm going to turn it over to you, Terri.
Okay, great. Let's make sure. Yep, I'm not on mute. So for me, this was my first state convention, but I had been last year to national convention. And there are some similarities, some differences between national and state convention, but there's a good chunk of it that is common process, just as the way league does things. But it was my first state convention. I've been to state lobby days twice, but still, after all of that, this was my first state convention. Just to follow the pattern, Ruth gave us some prompts to get us to address a couple different points. So I think from my perspective, the thing that I personally enjoyed the most at convention was in the midst of, Lyle described that all 29 leagues got a chance to stand up and highlight their achievements and their contributions. But out of that, there were 3 college chapters that presented. And honestly, to me, that was the thing that I enjoyed the most, seeing those young women giving their presentations and talking about why they are inspired to take their time as young people to be involved in the league and how they see themselves fitting into our state league. And that really warmed my heart the most. I really got the most chills out of those 3 college level presentations. The most inspiring thing about the convention for me was the new president, Jessica Lohmeyer, and I am going to give you a bunch of information in a few minutes about her. as far as the workshops that I attended, I did not attend nearly as many workshops because I didn't actually arrive at the convention until kind of into the middle of Friday morning, because I didn't even get back from Peru until Thursday evening. So it was kind of a quick turn for me. So unfortunately, that was my loss because I wasn't able to attend as many workshops. But one that I am always going to go to at national convention, at state convention, wherever it is offered, because it just means so much to me, is the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact presentation. So that I will never miss that, just because I just always want to know what's going on with that. In terms of surprises and disappointments, like Felecia, I was pleasantly surprised with the presence and the words given by the Orlando mayor, Demings. I had no idea that he was going to be there, and so that was completely unexpected, pleasant surprise for me. I think another kind of mini surprise for me, it was a learning thing for me, is that at state convention, in addition to an opportunity for local leagues to give direction to the board, there was another opportunity that we had during the convention, and that was to propose an action motion. And so this was a very interesting process to observe. There were a couple of people that were designated. It happened to be Diane Preston Moore and Lindsay Palega. And they put out a call to all attendees at the convention that if there was something that we thought that the league ought to write a formal letter to a government official about, we could put in a proposal for that to be done. And so the process is that you have to sort of craft what it is that you would want the point of the letter to be and which government official you would want it sent to. And then they take them and then they sort of do a little bit of screening of them just to make sure that they are consistent with league program and with league principles. And then on the second plenary day, the ones that made it through the process were put forward and we could vote on them. And that was not a process I had seen before, but I thought that all three of them, well, first of all, with slight amendments, they all ended up being approved by the voters at the convention. And I just found it an interesting process to observe that we would come together and use that opportunity to direct some pointed ideas and some words at some government officials about topics that we care about. So those were sort of my biggest surprises. I really don't know that I had any major disappointments. I was overall, like Felecia, really impressed with what the LWV Florida staff there in Orlando was able to put together, and the first Vice President Barb Lanning was able to put together with regard to this convention. So no big disappointments. So with that being said, I'm going to just do a little bit of deep dive on two topics. One is the workshops. So both Felecia and Lyle highlighted some of the workshops that they went to. But I'm just going to zoom out for a minute to tell you that overall, there were a total of 16 unique and different workshops that were offered. So if you ever go to convention in the future, this is kind of what you can expect and why we would encourage you to go. So, about 4 of the workshops are kind of more the business of the league, and Felecia and Lyle referred to a couple of them. Like there was a workshop about the bylaws, there was a workshop about the budget, about program, and then of course the a workshop that Felecia herself presented with League 101. And those are just great for people who just know these are major things that happen at convention. And so if you are unsure about how those things work, or what we're doing at convention with the budget, the bylaws, or the program, that's a great opportunity for you to go off into a workshop and find out more about it. But the other 12 are about this amazing range of topics. You've heard Lyle and Felecia talk about some of them, but some of them that have not been mentioned, I don't think so far, were the gun prevention strategies and how local action can be impactful with regard to gun prevention strategies. There was another one about that was a voter services update. There was another one that I think was done by the St. Petersburg League called Parent Power, building a more inclusive league by engaging families. And while I didn't attend that workshop, I happen to know that the reason that they gave that workshop is because they were doing something a little bit unique up there in St. Petersburg in order to attract younger members. And that is that they have, I think it's once a month, a gathering, a league gathering where people can bring their children, and they have an arrangement and a setup so that there are some people who are taking care of the children while other people are meeting to discuss league initiatives and the things that people care about and working in the league. But I really think they're having some success in attracting people that otherwise might not be as involved in the league by attracting people who are young parents. So it is a wide range of workshops. Now, Felecia already told you about the workshop that she presented. I also was bold enough, I'll say the term, I don't know, smart enough, but bold enough to offer a workshop myself. And the workshop that I presented was called Volunteer Passions, how to keep stoking the passions of our volunteers. And it's based on, let's see if that focuses, it's blurring on me a little, but I found this book last year as I was going through the state leadership program, and it's called Engaging the Head, Heart, and Hands of a Volunteer. And this ended up becoming a workshop because there were a group of us in that leadership program that just started to have a lot of conversations about the fact that we felt like we were learning a lot about the league in terms of processes and policy and the amazing overall work that we do in both education and advocacy. But a piece that some of us felt that we really didn't have in being effective in advancing the league's mission was how to best engage and lead and foster volunteers in an organization. Someone like me, I came from 38 years in the federal government. I never led volunteers. I had paychecks and bonuses and things that were the mechanisms by which I motivated people to give their best. But in a volunteer organization, it's a completely different dynamic, right? This is people's personal time. They might love the league. They might care deeply about its mission, yet it can still be true that people are somehow not as engaged as they could be because of particular dynamics that are happening in the group, or because they're just not plugged into the activity in a way that really speaks to their heart in the strongest way possible. And so what this workshop was meant to do was to take some points that were made by the author of this book and to try to talk about whether we have in the league a volunteer problem or challenges. And also a really important point that came in the discussion is recognizing the difference between someone who has joined the league as a member. That doesn't mean they're a volunteer. And there is a very big difference between paying to become a member, but committing to being a volunteer. Anyways, it's a pretty, I think it's a pretty interesting topic, and I really enjoyed the discussion that happened in the room, in the workshop room, about this whole topic of how to optimize the passions and sustain long-term the passions of volunteers that keep them coming back to events and giving generously of their time. And so that was the primary workshop that I talked about. And, we'll also be exploring, whether there's anything that we want to do with this locally. So Ruth, that was my coverage of the workshops. Do you want me to go ahead and talk about the changes to the board and the new president, or do you want me to hold that? You're on mute, I think.
That's the worst thing. Yes, please talk about the changes to the board and the new president.
Okay. The other thing that I'll just make a quick procedural point on is we're talking about all these cool things that inspired us, that we enjoyed, the workshops that we went to. But let's not forget that the absolutely core activities of the convention are to approve the new program, approve the new bylaws, approve the budget, and elect the officers. All the other things are wonderful, but those are the things that must happen at convention. And of course, they all did. I will also, when I think about this, I think about what I've heard Alice say in the past, that the board the league is as constant as the North Star. While everybody else changes around us, we have largely had the same priorities and the same programs since 1920 when we were founded. So I say I'm prompted to think about that, because when I think about what happened at convention with regard to our program, there were some changes that we had to talk through and vote on. But I would say that largely they were cosmetic. They were to remove references to things that had expired. They were to reorganize things slightly so that they just made a little bit more sense. But there were no drastic changes to our program. So that's just about the core activities. So then, as I said, one of the major things that has to happen at convention is the election of the officers and the new board. So what I can share with you, because the new president is the most inspiring thing about the whole convention for me, is that we did obviously have a big changeover from the last couple of years, where we've had co-presidents at the state level, similar to how we've had co-presidents at the local level for the last couple of years. But our outgoing presidents, Cecile Schoon and Debbie Chandler, they ended their terms, and the nominating board put forward a new nominee for president, and her name is Jessica Lowe Minor. In addition, there were 3 new people that were nominated and are now part of the state level board. The new secretary is Shana Rich. She's from Gainesville. She's a public health researcher, and she was in my state level leadership program as well. So I got to know her pretty well then. Another addition is Kathy Swerdlow. She is from Seminole County. She has been the president of the Seminole County League, and she has also been our lead voice on gun safety. Kathy is an expert in gun violence and gun safety in our state, and she's now one of the directors on the state level board. The third completely new member of the state board is Diane Preston Moore, and she's from Naples. She also has just ended her tenure as the local president of the Collier County League down in Naples. And she is a lawyer, although I don't think she's actually been practicing law for a few years, but she is now a new member of the Florida level League of Women Voters board. The other members of the board actually did some role changing. So Barbara Lanning had been one of the first, I think she was the second vice president. She became the first vice president. Cynthia Cave, who had been just a director on the board like me, she was nominated to become the second vice president. Monica Elliott, who had been the secretary, switched over to take the role of the treasurer. And Jill Lewis Spector, from one of our neighbors from next door in Sarasota, who had been the first vice president, is now a director without a specific officer role. And then there are 3 directors who are not officers, myself, Breezy Hicks, and Ashley Casiedo Serdovo, who are continuing in a tenure. We have been serving as board members for the past year, and our tenure as board members will continue through next year. So some new faces on the board and some just changing of roles on the board, but the big deal is the new president. So because she is the most inspirational thing for me out of the convention, I want to tell you a little bit about Jessica. So Jessica is a passionate voting rights advocate who joined the U.S. Board of Directors in 2016. So she has played a lot of roles. She has extensive nonprofit sector experience. She has served in both administrative and public policy roles and was the executive director for the Institute of Nonprofit Innovation and Excellence in Tallahassee from 2015 to 2018. Before that, from 2010 to 2014, she had served as the executive director for the League of Women Voters of Florida. So she started her life almost right out of college, having a role in our league here in Florida. And in that role, she supervised the league's full and part-time staff, did all the things that they do, from operationalizing strategy to developing systems, et cetera, everything that we need to do as an organization. Some highlights of that time is that she was successful in increasing the organizational revenue of the Florida League during that time period by 167% and membership across the state by 31%. She also has experience. She is based largely in Tallahassee, so she has experience as a legislative advocate at the Florida Capitol for a number of women's organizations. She has a master's degree in women and gender studies and the program in interdisciplinary humanities at Florida State University, and she has taught at both FSU and Tallahassee Community College. She happens to be a licensed realtor, and she is the mother of 2 lovely young daughters that we all got to see at convention along with her husband. And she says that her hobbies are hiking, horseback riding, and listening to podcasts. Now, she's gotten some coverage in the press here in Florida because she is the youngest person to have ever served as the president of the League of Women Voters of Florida. And so if you go out and Google Jessica's name right now, you can find a couple of different articles about her. So in one of them that highlights she is this new president and the youngest ever, it talks about her priorities. And she says that in her new role, she's focused on fighting voter misinformation, expanding access to the ballot, and restoring trust in the elections process. And the quote they have from her she says, "I'm really excited to focus on things that everyday citizens can do to combat mis and disinformation and help our elections process run smoothly, to help voters get registered and make sure that all Americans feel that they have the tools that they need to participate in our democracy fully." So, she's very well aware of the challenges that we have in the state in being increasingly viewed as partisan, even though we have been as consistent as the North Star. So she talks about, when she talks to the press, she talks about the case in 2022 when Senator Corey Simon in Tallahassee pulled out of a league candidate forum and in an ad paid for by his campaign, he called the league overtly partisan. So what Jessica is emphasizing in these interviews is that she totally rejects that claim and absolutely stands firm on the belief that we have a strong nonpartisan reputation. She says, as we all know, we don't provide financial support or any other kind of support to political candidates. We do take positions on issues. And I think that the positions we take are often seen as pretty moderate and where many voters are. and we welcome elected officials from all parties to adopt those positions and to work to help those positions become policy. So she's also right now out there in the press highlighting across Florida the league's position on the SAVE Act in Congress, right? So she's talking about how if someone's name on their birth certificate is different from their driver's license, that they could face additional hurdles when it comes to registering to vote. And she says married women are one of the groups most likely to be impacted. So the article by Jasmine Sutherland wraps up with Jessica saying that a successful presidency of our league will be measured by increased voter registration, higher turnout across the state, and growing membership within the league. And so I'm just really excited about her. And I'm going to finish by looping a little bit. So after everyone else left the convention late Saturday, because I am still on the Florida board, Felecia had to attend the board meeting that opened the convention. I attended the board meeting that closed the convention that followed the convention on Sunday morning. And I will tell you a couple of observations from that. I think that Jessica is very interested in some proposals that surfaced during the convention about having a dedicated core to work on litigation. Both of our retiring or exiting co-presidents were lawyers. Jessica is not a lawyer herself, but she recognizes the importance, especially in Florida and especially in a Florida context, that the league holds standing and may be the most important entity that would put forward litigation against something that is happening either in a particular county or statewide. And so I think she is looking to make sure that with the departure of Cecile and Debbie, that we don't lose one step and in fact get stronger at our ability to use litigation to protect voters, to advocate for voters, and to use that in terms of advocacy. The other thing that I will say, because I do think it's controversial, Lyle highlighted that in the direction to the board, there were at least 3 leagues that, and as well as the presentation by the villages, that really said we have got to focus on core voting issues. Alice has asked me to explain standing, so I will stop to do that. So when you file a lawsuit, one of the quickest ways that your lawsuit will be thrown out is if you're determined not to have standing, which means that you don't legally, the courts would not recognize that you are a valid and legitimate representative of whoever is being harmed by the action. And so as I have, keep learning more and more about the league, I think this comes to this core issue that Lyle was talking about, is there is no other organization at the national level, state level, and local that has the level of credibility and legal standing to represent voters. There are lobbying groups, there are special interest groups that might be a very small organization of a few people that sit in an office. When they file a lawsuit, they don't have a membership that gives them standing to file this lawsuit. The league does, because we have tens, hundreds of thousands of members nationwide, tens of thousands of members in a state. We can legitimately be seen as having standing to represent voters in a way that no other organization in our society does. And so there's a little bit of a dialogue going on in the league about not forgetting that core main thing that only we can do. Other organizations can do other things where their focus lies, but this is who we are. This is the core of what the league is. So I do think that it's a very important conversation about how we strike the balance between maintaining a voice and a focus and our resources on these core democracy voting issues compared to all of the other issues that we all care about. I will share with you that at that first board meeting with Jessica, one at least initial conversation that we had was the introduction of a term that I actually brought into the conversation coming from a Department of Defense background of how different commands work with one another. And there's an idea of who is the supported organization and who is the supporting organization. So it doesn't mean that you're not involved or are out of it or in, but there could be an important but subtle difference between in an activity. Are we the supported organization? We're the main player and other people are supporting us? Or is someone else the main and lead organization and we are supporting them? So are we supported or are we supporting? And I think that there are some important conversations that need to be had about that. It doesn't mean that you don't care about that anymore or that you don't get involved in that anymore, but you might start to have a clarity that you are supporting someone else rather than being the main actor. There can be a lot that could be discussed. And I'm not saying that was not a board decision. That was just a kind of a little conversation that started at that first board meeting. But again, I'll wrap up since this is my major inspiration, and I think Ruth will echo this, to just see a 42-year-old woman, her husband, and two beautiful little girls standing there, giving a rousing speech about her concern that her daughters have less rights today in this state than she did coming out of high school. For me, was a breath of fresh air. It was inspiring, and I am so excited about what Jessica is going to do to lead our state league and our 29 local leagues into the future.
Terri, thank you so very much. You covered a lot. And yes, it is staggering to think about the young people who have fewer rights than we had. And that has a lot to do with certainly why most of us are so active, those of us are active in the league. I'm going to wrap it by saying I was thrilled that we were awarded a League Achievement Award. There were a total of 9 awards given out. 3 were given out to small leagues, 3 were given out to the medium-sized leagues, and Manatee is qualified as a large league, and so we got one of the 3 awards. It's thanks to the efforts of all the active members of the league. The award was actually for creating innovative ways to bring community awareness and recognition to the league. I'll give you some examples of our innovative ways. All the leagues, or most of them, did postcards, but one of the things we did was actually have our postcards delivered with Meals on Wheels delivered. So that was really getting the message across. Another was the work that we took on this year in this election to be at all of the canvassing board meetings. And that was, we were the only league that was at all of the canvassing board meetings. Much of our innovation was around the work that we did with Amendment 4, and specifically Nancy Hughes as the action chair for reproductive rights. The 4 different forums where she was an expert panelist for the Women's Resource Center, for Tiger Bay, for the Women of Manatee County Republican Club. These are places that we're reaching people that the League does not always have a voice or really be able to reach out to them. So our award was for innovation, and we will continue to look for innovative ways to bring the message of the League and defend our democracy. I did not see any other questions in chat, and we're at 5:57. So I thank all of you for joining us in this recap of the Florida State Convention. And hopefully many of you will choose to attend 2 years from now. So thank you all. And I did see something from Terri come up in chat. Yes, we have the Juneteenth event, the tabling event this coming Saturday, and we are short 3 volunteers. So please, if you are voter registration certified at this point and you could possibly serve this Saturday, or we need to get the word out, we'll certainly be sending out another email. We'll send out information in Team Reach, but we definitely need additional.
Are they all afternoon? Are they all afternoon?
No, one is in the morning and 2 are in
okay.
the afternoon.
So we need 1 person from 11:30 to 3, and then we need 2 people from 3 to 6:30.
And if you are not voter registration assistance qualified, Terri will be more than happy to tell you how to do that. And it really is pretty simple. You take the test, then immediately you take it again because you probably missed one question. And there's a little thing you read beforehand. And then you need to tell Terri, and probably, well, at least tell Terri, because the state does not tell us. So Terri will not know to add you to the VR qualified list and to say, hey, how about doing this fun event of tabling?
Thank you, Alice, for explaining that, and thank you, Terri, for reminding me that we needed to ask for more people. I've seen some positive feedback in the chat, so thank you very much. And I'm going to say thank you for attending. Thank you to the presenters. And at this point, Alice, I think you can stop recording.
Yeah.
And we'll let everybody head out to dinner or whatever their evening plans are.
I'm trying to, where's, oh, here it is.